welcome to this online event. My name is Sandra Miller, and I'm a health coach in the business for about 30 years. I've been a personal trainer. I'm an author, speaker, health coach, nutritional therapist, and weight loss counselor. And I've created a website, www.biohackingwellness.com, so that I can bring you the latest information in health, medicine, and science. We now live in an age of quantified self. So biohacking wellness just means that we are going to learn how to use tools, testing, and other wellness hacks so that we can live life optimized. I'm a GPS for your DNA, and I'm going to be able to help show you exactly the steps you need to take to start getting healthier, leaner, sexier, sharper in the mind, relieve aches and pains, joint pain, and brain fog. If you haven't looked at my other articles yet, which start you at the basics, the foundation, which is diet, and then the next steps are the important nutrients that you need to be getting right now, this is actually like the third step in the process. So this online event is all about how to biohack your blood sugar. And by biohacking your blood sugar, you have to know what it is. We're going to talk about all the easy ways to test your blood sugar so that you know exactly where you're at, and you will be able to narrow down the perfect diet for you. So no more crazy blood sugar swings, no more highs and lows. No more crazy hunger and having to eat every few hours and feeling like you cannot resist candy, cookies, cakes, coffee, and all of those things that we feel like we need a lot of days to just pick ourselves up. So stick around and let's start biohacking blood sugar. So let's get started. Thank you for joining me today, first of all, but I also want you to thank yourself because this webinar is not just for diabetics. It's for anybody who eats carbohydrates. I know that you're here because you want to learn more about how blood sugar can affect the body. And I know that you're curious to learn some ways to keep your blood sugar more regulated and stable without the high and low swings. Maybe you're someone that's had random episodes of low blood sugar. Maybe they're more than random. Are any of you able to go more than about 2 to 3 hours without eating something? And when I say needing to eat, this could be actual hunger and feeling empty, but it could also just mean that you're needing to munch, or you're feeling like you need something, sweets, cookies, crackers, candy, soda, something that just gives you a little bit of a pick-me-up, a little bite of something. Well, there are over 25 million people with diabetes, and more than twice that are pre-diabetic. That's about 1/4 of the population. Most of you who are diabetic know that when your blood sugar gets high, bad things can happen. Repeatedly high blood sugar not being regulated with medication often means ending up giving yourself insulin. So what happens when the insulin stops working? No amount of insulin is going to help regulate a person's blood sugar if they're not eating properly. And unfortunately, we've been given some pretty poor nutritional advice when it comes to diabetes. I cannot look on the cover of Diabetes magazine without seeing a dessert. So we have to wonder, what kind of a message is that sending? Symptoms occur when the blood sugar is high. Symptoms occur when the blood sugar is low. Some people are having effects of elevated blood sugar right now, and they don't even know it. Elevated blood sugar, even for a very short time, begins to have immediate effects on the vascular system. A study done in the journal called The Lancet in 2014 reported that diabetics who have the highest level of morbidity factors like leg ulcers or other vascular issues, vision problems, have a 37-fold risk of becoming demented. Now, just for the record, there is no meaningful cure for Alzheimer's. Make no mistake, this is an irreversible condition right now in 2015. And there is less hope of recovering from Alzheimer's than there is to recovering from just about any cancer. By the way, Alzheimer's affects more than 5.4 million Americans, and it's predicted to double by 2030. That's only 15 years from now. That's about 1 million people a year. the majority of those people suffered from some sort of dysregulation of blood sugar. Alzheimer's has now been given the title type 3 diabetes. The effects of sugar on the body have been studied by many, including neurologist and New York Times bestseller author Dr. David Perlmutter, who wrote the book Grain Brain and Brain Maker, and also by Dr. William Davis, who wrote the book Wheat Belly. The low-carb, ketogenic, and paleo diets are on the new frontier for the health conscious because so many people are heeding the advice. Healthy fats are good, too many sugars are not good. Want another reason to keep your blood sugar and metabolism in a more steady state? Wrinkles and premature aging. This is caused by a process called glycation. So how do we get ourselves into this mess? Well, an overabundance of carbohydrates from all sources is one of the main reasons. As mammals, our pancreas was not set to handle the volume that we subject it to. We humans have to push the limits. And so we end up developing an insulin resistance. Now, the truth is, diabetes is only the symptom. It is not a disease. It is a symptom of a metabolic issue. But the real illness here that needs to be dealt with is addiction. Many people today have low dopamine levels, and just as sure as a diabetic needs insulin, someone with low dopamine needs something to help increase their dopamine. Dopamine is one of those feel-good neurochemicals like serotonin or endorphins, and more of this brain chemical and we feel good and happy, relaxed, and content. When we're low in dopamine, we crave anything that will make us feel better. Since sugar and wheat both have effects on the part of the brain that wants pleasure, it's those things we tend to crave. Sugar and wheat both have specific connections to our pleasure centers. Now, we are all mammals and we have very primitive biology. Our basic needs are food, shelter, sleep, and sex. But I don't know of anyone who's really addicted to shelter, and I know many of us would sleep more if we could. But we have a very easy access to something that will make us feel good within minutes, and that is dietary carbohydrates. Sugar in, happiness out. Sugar comes from obvious places like table sugar and refined flours. Soups, sauces, salad dressings, glazes, coatings. Yep, it's there too. Now, in order for us to really make a difference in our health, we need to understand the root causes of diabetes. Like I said, it is not a disease, and it is not a disease of the pancreas. In fact, most type 2 diabetics make plenty of insulin, too much in fact, and this leads to a condition called insulin resistance. Your cells, particularly the muscle cells and the cells of the liver, become resistant to the insulin made. When we have all this insulin floating around in the body, its job is to draw sugar into the cells. So with all this insulin hanging around your system, it's looking for food and it's wanting sugar. This type of food is all too readily available today. Plus, when we feel down, we snack. When we're celebrating, food again. Angry, sad, lonely, well, you better kiss that pint of Ben & Jerry's goodbye because of environmental chemicals and poor lifestyle habits and foods, our hormones get thrown off, and many of us don't produce enough of the feel-good hormone called dopamine. And we can actually increase our dopamine with the appropriate diet. Interestingly enough, here's some more information about dopamine. Dr. Daniel Amen is a neurologist and claims that his patients with ADHD or ADD, they pick a lot of fights. They are prone to causing conflict where there really should be none. And the reason that they do this is it's a way to stimulate their brain because the status quo isn't exciting to a brain with ADHD that's just kind of running on a different circuit. Starting a fight or an argument stimulates a pathway in the brain that makes them feel, stimulated. And being stimulated makes them happy. So they in turn will do something to stimulate themselves by causing conflict. When somebody with low dopamine needs to be stimulated, they eat sugar. Now, low dopamine can have some genetic ties as well. So the eating strategy that we need to adopt is one that also enhances our dopamine level. And sometimes that goes a little bit beyond food into supplements. When our dopamine is low, we need that fix. You've heard of the addictive personality? Well, you can blame low dopamine for that. Somebody with an addictive personality just has a disorder in their dopamine system. But for a few minutes of pleasure disguised as a donut, a cookie, chips, and all is right with the world for a little while. Even Lay's will tell you, you can't eat just one. Is that a subliminal message or what? Lay's can say that because they've spent millions of dollars making sure that you feel exactly that way. The food industry doesn't want you to stop eating their products. Packaged products are not food. They are scientific concoctions with just the right ingredients put together in just the right way so that you reach the bliss point. This is actually what it is called in the food industry. So your addiction funds families' nice vacations. And for as great a country as America is, your government does not protect you from this form of drugging. It's completely legal. They even work very hard on having you stay addicted because the government, after all, is a business. And without your business, they would be a lot poorer. The cozy relationship between big food industry and food lobbyists and our government is not going away. It's only going to get worse. You and your addiction get stuck in the middle, and the outcome is disease. So the question then becomes, well, how does a metabolic disease take hold? When do we cross the line from thinking nothing is wrong with our blood sugar to hypoglycemia and on to prediabetes and eventually diabetes? Well, first of all, unless you are a type 1 diabetic, which is actually autoimmune in nature, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a progression. So in this webinar, I'm going to discuss how you can take some steps to stop it from happening to you right now. If you're living with prediabetes or diabetes, how to stop it in its tracks before it causes irreparable damage. And if you just get hungry often and would like more of a steady state of satiety so you can finally reach your weight loss goals, then this webinar will offer you something as well. Now, if you have metabolic issues like some of the following, hormonal issues, if you're a man, would be gynecomastia, which means man boobs, or belly fat, and for women, PCOS, female hormone issues, and for everybody, hypoglycemia, not being able to go more than a few hours without putting something in our mouths. My tips to help you balance your hormones and your blood sugar so that you can suffer less and enjoy life more are going to be very easy to implement into your daily routine. We first need to clear something up. Diabetes is not a disease, so don't own it. Unless you've managed to completely destroy your beta cells in your pancreas, normalized blood sugar can be yours. Humans were meant to process sugar, and insulin is the way we do it. We just were not intended to consume it in the amounts that we do today, and that's because it's hidden in everything. It's not a disorder of the pancreas itself, but the pancreas does pay the price from too much sugar because it has to produce insulin, which lets the sugar into the cells. And like I said, it's like a motor in a car. If you leave a motor running for a long time, it's not going to function after a while. So sometimes it produces enough, but the cells become resistant to it, kind of like when you block out an annoying noise just to save your sanity. It's still there, but you've kind of chosen not to hear it. Well, muscles and other tissues can turn a deaf ear to the signal of insulin as well. That is what we call insulin resistance. It's that step before the endocrine system says, I quit, I'm not playing anymore. Imagine leaving an appliance on continuously for weeks, months, or years. This is what happens to some special cells in our pancreas called beta cells. These special beta cells actually burn out, and beta cell dysfunction can be seen on blood tests well before a diabetes diagnosis is made. So there's plenty of time to catch things before they happen. Being proactive is a lot easier than trying to clean up a mess. So here's a similar analogy and a question for you. Now, mammograms do detect some cancers, but did you know that by the time a lesion is seen on a mammogram, the disease has been progressing for approximately 10 years? Well, it's similar with the pancreas. We can see that beta cell dysfunction sometimes weeks, months, or even years before getting a diagnosis of diabetes. But I gotta ask, why would you wait until you can see the beginnings of a disease before you start taking action? Here's where addiction begins to rear its ugly head. If you knew that something wasn't good for you, and something was definitely challenging your body each and every time you ate it in excess, wouldn't it be smarter just to eat it in moderation? A simple question. Some programs want to take you from wherever you are to cutting out every form of sugar in a snap. But honestly, in 30 years of working with clients, I don't find that to be the most effective solution. Although it is quick, it's not long lasting because people just don't stick with it. So I'm going to show you how to do it gradually and painlessly and learn exactly from your own body when is it time to stop eating the carbohydrates, how many can your body manage, and it looks a lot different than just a complete throw every bit of sugar out of the diet, and boom, miracles are supposed to happen. But that's not the way it works, is it? Hypoglycemia is something that I myself suffered from for decades. It's a metabolic disorder characterized by low blood sugar and low glucose levels, but it can be caused by a number of things. It can be caused by medications or too much medication, missed meals or delayed meals, and for patients with diabetes especially, intense exercise and even stress. Now that can affect the rest of us as well, but it affects a diabetic much more. When the blood sugar is high, we are not burning fat. We are storing fat. And if you watched any of my other videos before, fat makes insulin and insulin makes fat, and it's a vicious cycle. The main storage tank for fat under these circumstances is around the abdominal area. This fat has been named visceral fat because it's the fat around your organs. Now, the liver suffers a lot from excess fat around it, but the organ that suffers the most and that affects diabetes is the pancreas. Dr. Roy Taylor, in his groundbreaking research on reversing diabetes, says there is a direct connection between visceral fat, the liver, and pancreatic function. He claims diabetes can be reversed in a relatively short period of time with that metabolism and liver connection, and his studies have proven it. Now, his work was done on bariatric patients, and there are several things that cause a person who has bariatric surgery to lose weight. Now, you would think that it's because they may be possibly having the structure of their digestive system altered in some way, either by removing a piece or by banding. But actually, those changes come from two things. Gut hormones change when bariatric surgery is done. And we already are now in the midst of this huge revolution with gut health, which is why I wrote that book, Probiotics, Our World Within, a simple guide to minding your microbiome. Now, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, you're going to see a blue box on my page at www.biohackingwellness.com that's going to say join the movement, sign up for my newsletter, and I will send you the book and 2 other free gifts. And it will come in very, very handy as well with the material that I'm presenting to you in this training. So 2 complementary things, and you'll want to have both. The second thing that majorly affects the fat burning process here is, of course, due to calorie restriction, the patient gets into a fat burning state very, very quickly. But what he noticed is that the pancreas had full recovery and normalized within 7 days because the fat in the liver decreased significantly. His research shows that when there is fat around the pancreas and the liver, it does not work efficiently. When the beta cells of the pancreas have fat around them, the pancreas doesn't work efficiently. So one of his keys to reversing diabetes is to reduce visceral fat. I think that that's easier said than done, but I am going to show you otherwise. But the first step is to figure out, well, how much visceral fat do I have? There are scales made by the Tanita company for commercial use that do measure visceral fat. Now, I'm not going to say that getting a body fat test by a handheld method or by a home scale is a waste of time. However, they are largely inaccurate. There are many inaccuracies in those. For instance, when you use a handheld model, you're really only using the upper body current because these machines work by bioelectrical impedance. They send an electric current through the body, and the current, because body fat contains very little water and muscle contains a great deal, they're able to move through the tissues at different speeds. Lean tissue is a great conductor because of the amount of water that your muscle holds, and fat holds very little water, so the current travels quickly through muscle and very slowly through fat. Now, while these will give you an overall body fat percentage, they will not be able to determine your amount of visceral fat. Now, if you have one of these home version scales that reads body fat, you will only be getting the body fat reading of the lower half of your body because you are not holding on to anything. So the current is going to pass from one side of your body to the other. More specifically, from one leg to the other. With 4 points of contact, the current travels through the entire body and also measures the visceral fat in between. By eating the right foods, those that help to regulate insulin and keep blood sugar in check, are going to assure that you burn the fat around those organs, but most importantly, that you are changing the hormonal response that your body is having to foods. Just cutting out refined carbohydrates and eating whole foods that are high in nutrients and fiber. So I want to make it clear that it's very important to test your body fat percentage in the most accurate way possible. You may have heard about a test called the body mass index, and that is a calculation of your height and weight. And the body mass index chart is used by doctors. It is largely inaccurate. There are many people who are of normal weight by the chart. However, when you measure their body fat, you will find that they have lots of visceral fat. There's even a term to describe it, and it's called skinny fat. It's a thin person with fatty organs. And this is a metabolic disaster. And sugar, especially fructose, are the villains in this disaster. I suggest that everyone try to get this test done and retain a copy or write your results in a notebook. So I'm sure we all understand that in order to make changes to something and see a desired result, you have to know where you're starting from. Enter blood sugar testing. I like to call it biohacking blood sugar. Let's talk more about the role of blood glucose and insulin. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard about Dr. Richard Bernstein, but Dr. Bernstein was a diabetic himself, and he suffered from kidney disease and hypoglycemia a good part of his life. But in 1972, Dr. Bernstein did something very special. He brought home glucose monitoring to the public. He made blood sugar testing available to any person who wanted to check it. So this is the first tool that I'm going to suggest and strongly suggest that you implement. One of the most important blood sugar readings that we can take is the blood sugar reading that we take fasting in the morning after we have not eaten since our dinner the night before, in an ideal situation. But there are so many people who snack later at night or in the middle of the night. When we have elevated morning blood sugars, over 100 to be exact, that means that something is going on metabolically and the body, for whatever reason, isn't processing its sugars effectively. Did you know that your body can make sugar from protein? Well, it's true. And the process in which it does this is called gluconeogenesis. Basically, gluco meaning sugar, neo meaning new, and genesis meaning life. So the body is making new sugars from protein on its own, and you may not even be aware of it. This is a very common process for people who go low carb, but they also don't eat enough healthy fats. That's why testing glucose in the morning is so extremely effective in finding out what is going on in our body so that we can take charge, measure, and track. So I'm asking that you obtain a glucometer and start testing your morning glucose at the very least. You can also test your blood sugar an hour to 2 hours after eating. If this isn't convenient, a test called hemoglobin A1C can easily be done by your doctor, and this test is pretty popular because it measures how much glucose is permanently bonding or glycating to hemoglobin in red blood cells. It gives you an average of your blood sugar over a 3-month time frame. Be aware that anemia can throw this off because there's less red blood cells for the sugar to stick to. We've already discussed the damage that having elevated blood sugar, even for a short period of time, has on the body. So you'll want to keep your hemoglobin A1C between the 4 and 6% range. Anything above that is very dangerous. That means damage is occurring. And so is accelerated aging. Your telomeres shorten every time your blood sugar increases, and that shortens your lifespan. So what is our fasting blood sugar supposed to be? Well, ideally, fasting blood sugar is characterized as normal if it is under 99 milligrams per deciliter. But to be healthier and to stop glycation from happening, we really want to keep that blood sugar tightly controlled under 90, but above 70. 70 or below is indicative of low blood sugar, and that's not good either. 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetic, and anything over 126, you have a problem. Let me share my story for a moment. For many, many, many years, my fasting blood glucose ran in the 90s. Let's say 95 to 97 was my average. And because I followed standard guidelines, I was always under the impression that that was fine and there was nothing wrong with that. Due to many health challenges, I pressed on to find answers for why I was feeling the way that I was. Something that affected me greatly was hypoglycemia. I could not go 2 hours without eating a meal. It affected my life, my job, my health, everything. Since I trusted that the doctor said everything was normal, I never pushed the issue. When I moved to Florida and got myself a new doctor, this doctor happened to do some very extensive wellness testing, and that went so far above and beyond what I'd ever had before. And it was a blessing in disguise. I found out things that I was pretty shocked over, and one of them was that even though my normal blood glucose level of 95 was considered in fact normal, for me, it absolutely was not. Upon further testing of my insulin results were an 8, which is high. Not only that, but I showed signs of beta cell dysfunction. That is basically prediabetes. So maybe your blood glucose levels appear to be normal, but your fasting insulin level and its results are the hallmark of metabolic syndrome. Ask your doctor to test for this today. Ideally, you want your fasting insulin to be below 5, and I'm happy to say mine's remained between 3 and 4 for a few years now. The last player in this game that we're going to talk about today, before we move on to some recommendations, is leptin. Leptin is our satiety hormone. And this hormone is made by your fat cells and helps to regulate energy balance. And it works very closely with insulin. Now, I'm going to mention leptin, but I'm not going to go into details on that because I have that coming up in another webinar on how to optimize your insulin leptin signaling. But for now, just understand that leptin plays a huge role in satiety and how hungry you might feel during the day. And we will be discussing this further as to how to optimize leptin. So to follow along with this very valuable training and all the free gifts that you're going to get along the way, you want to make sure you sign up for the newsletter at www.biohackingwellness.com. Look for the blue box on the homepage that says sign up for the newsletter, or you can just go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/biohackingwellness, and on the left-hand side, you will see an email sign-up envelope. So get yourself on there and make sure you don't miss anything. This health coaching is free to all of my subscribers. When I made the commitment that Biohacking Wellness would be a GPS for your DNA and that I wanted to be your health coach, I wasn't kidding. If you stay connected with me, you will also be one of the first people ever to be part of a revolutionary new program by 2 of today's most prominent and knowledgeable physicians. World-renowned health and wellness experts, Dr. Stephen Masley and Dr. Johnny Bowden, have created a program and a corresponding book called Smart Fat. Not only are you going to get some guidelines, free tips, tools, and recipes, but did you know that Dr. Stephen Masley has a culinary degree? So trust me, food won't be boring. And dark chocolate and wine are doctor's orders. They need to be a part of your diet, and we'll show you how to do that. Why would you start any program until you check this out? This is for the long term. This is not just something that lasts 6 weeks and it's done. Here's what JJ Virgin had to say about Smart Fat. She said Smart Fat is a groundbreaking book that's going to create a seismic shift in how we look at fat and why we need much more of it. A must read. Dr. Sarah Gottfried of the Hormone Cure fame says, this book perfectly illustrates what she tells her clients and readers. It's not about calories. It's about eating foods that are hormonally helpful. And it's not about eating less or more. It's about eating smarter. This is a smart book by 2 of the smartest experts in the field. Wouldn't it be great to be free of ridiculous hunger, up and down cravings, mood swings, headaches? Because blood sugar dysregulation, at its roots, metabolic origins, we have to deal with this beast where it lives. We have to change hormonal signaling. There is no other way around it. And this program is going to get your hormones on track, which is going to help so many other aspects in your life. And you're going to love the way you feel. I can't wait to share this program with you. Being a nutritional therapist and a weight loss coach for 30 years or more, I can tell you that I am really looking forward to helping you deal with the psychological aspects of making changes. So together, this is a no-fail plan, folks. So I'm really happy that you're joining me with this. And don't keep this training a secret. Share it with people you care about. Direct them to be able to sign up and stay in touch because this is only the beginning. There is so much more to come in 2016. So let's wrap things up with some key takeaways about blood sugar and insulin. Step 1, don't guess. Get tested. You want to have your hemoglobin A1C and your insulin levels tested by your doctor. Something you can do at home is to purchase a glucometer and begin taking your own fasting blood sugars in the morning and logging them down with the book that's provided with your kit. The ideal target for your blood sugar in the morning fasting would be in the 80s. If your blood sugar is in the low 90s, that's not bad. You don't have too far to go. For blood sugars 99 and above, begin to implement these tips immediately, but also inform your doctor of your results. Number 2, to avoid spikes in blood sugar in the morning, try to limit carbohydrate consumption prior to 3 in the afternoon. Remove all processed and packaged foods from your diet. Choose only from a list of the following carbohydrates for the best glucose control. That would be sweet potato, oats, quinoa, brown rice, and wild rice. And eliminate anything from a package or a box or a crinkly bag or anything that is processed. So no white refined flour. That will make a significant difference in your blood sugar spikes immediately. It'll also make a nice difference in your weight. And stick to a half-cup serving. Beans, nuts and seeds, and legumes also provide some carbohydrate in the diet, but the most important thing that they provide that's going to benefit you is fiber. And you're going to be learning a lot more about how fiber really makes a huge difference, not only in blood sugar, but blood cholesterol, overall health, and gut health. So load up on the beans, nuts, seeds, and legumes. They also keep you full longer. This is a great way to begin controlling your weight and your hormones. A great bonus, too, with fibrous foods is that your body has to work harder just to break them down. So you, in turn, burn more calories just by eating them. Number 3, get adequate protein. Protein is a really important aspect of the diet. And a lot of people don't get enough of it. So we want to add some clean, lean protein. For the best hormone balancing, try to stick with egg, fish, chicken, or turkey. However, red meat is fine as long as it's clean red meat, not conventionally grown, meaning we want it to be grass-fed and finished. Most cattle are not only raised with GMO corn and soy, but also antibiotics and hormones. So while you're trying to get your hormones in balance, it's a good idea to just keep the meat to a reasonable minimum. Maybe start with just once a week. Other shellfish like mussels, crabs, scallops, shrimp, lobster, any of those are fine. And we're also going to be telling you why you shouldn't worry about the cholesterol. Clean meats and poultry can sometimes be hard to find, so I'm going to share with you a link so that you can have it conveniently delivered to your door, just like we do. People who look at eating clean meat, a huge expense. But let me tell you, the real expense is what you will pay with your health if you don't. When you get a membership to US Wellness Meats, you can include neighbors and friends and share the cost of shipping. Since a healthy diet is mainly plant-based, you'll only be using a little bit of meats and chicken and fish. For men and women, serving sizes should be as follows. Approximately a 3 to 4 ounce serving for women and approximately a 4 to 6 ounce serving for men. And this is per meal. Vegetables should be one of the main staples of your diet. So you should be having them with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's really important that some of the vegetables and fruits we eat be organic. Not all, but some. When you sign up to join me, I'll also send you a PDF that will tell you which ones it's important to eat organic and which ones it's okay to buy conventionally. I'm a big fan of growing whatever you can and find neighbors who'll do the same and share. And number 4, for healthy hormone production, you gotta have fats. Good fats and neutral fats are best. And you'll be learning a lot more about the difference between them. Now, the doctors are going to be sharing their research on healthy fats. But for now, if you avoid canola and vegetable oils, and of course anything in a package which contains them, then you're going to be taking a step in the right direction. And you're going to be able to see how olive oils and other nut oils like walnut or almond are great choices for cooking and a lot healthier. Tip number 5, don't skip breakfast, at least not yet, and eat only 3 times a day. Yep, you heard that right. I know that you've probably heard for years, 5 to 6 small meals, 5 to 6 small meals. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is the surest way to cause the problems that you're facing right now. Every time you put something in your mouth, especially if it contains any carbohydrate at all, you are stimulating insulin. So in order to get insulin, hunger, and weight under control, it is 3 meals a day. It doesn't matter what time you have those 3 meals, but it should be 3 meals a day. Or if you can't do 3, do 2 meals. So here's the secret. If there's something that you want to eat, let's say it's nuts and some chocolate, you're going to have that 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after your meal, but no further outside of that window. So any snacking, even if it's fruit or something healthy, it needs to be done within 30 minutes of the meal that you're going to have, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And that way, all of the calories go into your body at once. All of the sugars, protein, and carbs go into your body at once. There is only one small sugar spike, and it won't be that great because of the fact that you're eating proteins and fats in that meal. This is going to really help start to get your blood sugars on track, and soon you'll be able to move to the next steps. 6 is really an alternative. You don't have to do this step, but if you do really have blood sugar issues, I can tell you that it helps. If you find a good phone app like MyFitnessPal or something similar, and you add in your foods that you're eating in a day, you really don't have to put in your proteins or fats. But if it's fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, if you have yogurt, if you have anything to drink that is not water, you want to put that in and watch your totals. You'll be able to tie this information back to the very foods that are causing you an issue. You will be biohacking blood sugar. And lastly, tip number 7. Rome wasn't built in a day, nor was it haphazardly planned out. It is very important psychologically to set an intention for the day. Plan your work and work your plan. This definitely means stating out loud what your intention for the day is for yourself, because once that comes out of your mouth and into your ear, it becomes extremely powerful from a psychological standpoint. Subliminal, really. One of the best ways to succeed is to tell yourself that you are succeeding. This is one of those things that works, whether or not you believe it or understand how. We all know what happens when we defy gravity. We may not understand how it works, but we're pretty clear about the outcome. Even if you don't think these tools are helpful, I implore you to do each and every one for 30 days. Let me ask you a question. Is what you're doing working? Fail to plan, plan to fail. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Or in the words of one of my clients, if you keep doing what you did, you'll keep getting what you got. Never has there been more truer statement. So if you've ever wanted to really reach your goals once and for all, change your mindset, feel great, and be part of something revolutionary with 2 of the country's top doctors in the field, then stick around. It's going to be a great year. And remember to stay tuned, because Sandra Miller's Biohacking Wellness.